Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of the AI Inside podcast, the show where we take a look at the AI that is layered throughout so much of the world of technology. I'm one of your hosts, Jason Howell, joined always by Jeff Jarvis on the other side of the country. How's it going, Jeff?
Whether you can get rid of me or not, here I am. I just won't go away.
I heard you guys have been getting pummeled by heat.
Yes. I was in the city yesterday, and it was 101.
Oh my goodness!
Which we're not used to. We're shy flowers here.
And New York, like when you say the city, you mean New York City?
Manhattan, yeah.
Manhattan. 101 there is like a heat index of craziness.
It comes up from this. Yeah, it was yucky. It was yucky.
Yeah, I was there. I think last summer, and it was very. You feel that kind of heat on a deep level. Well, I'm happy you're okay. I'm assuming you've got air conditioning for those days.
Yes, I do.
So you're surviving. Good to have you here, Jeff. I think what we should start with today is probably the biggest celebration of all, which is that, surprising to me, you now have AI mode on your enterprise plan through Google, which is something that Google normally doesn't do for whatever reason. They don't seem to roll out these features to you.
Yeah, and I always get peeved about it. And then there was a Google executive who came into the socials and said,
Nick Fox.
Yeah, it was right, and who we met from thanks to you, and he said, you're getting it. I said, oh yeah, and so I celebrated, and then a bunch of other people like me came in on the same thread and said, but I don't have it yet. Poor Nick was having to say, we're rolling it out.
Now he's tech support.
He was stuck. Yeah, he was stuck in tech support. So I'm saying, I don't know, what do I do? I said, I know it's below your pay grade, but help.
But you're the one that reached out to me. You're the one that said, he's the one that reached out to you.
It was great of him. It was really great of him to reach out. It was wonderful. And I didn't get it until this morning or last night. Suddenly it just appeared.
Oh, okay. And it suddenly appeared.
Yeah. So I really haven't used it much. No.
Yeah, you haven't had much time to play around with it.
The funny thing was that I went on the socials and I celebrated. I have AI mode in my workspace account. And a couple people said, oh no, you need to get rid of it. Oh no, did you choose that? Yeah, I've been begging for it. Shush, you complainers out there, you Luddites, you.
And
I
so
want my AI mode.
Yeah, I mean, so they've been using it and don't like it, or are they?
No, they just think technology's evil and you shouldn't.
With everything, I was just gonna say, there are some people that have genuinely tried it out. No, it's not for me, and other people that if it has those two letters AI in it, it's an immediate
cooties.
Immediate reaction.
Techno cooties.
See that a lot.
Yeah,
see that a lot. Well, I'll be curious to hear what you think about it. We were talking about it a little bit last night on the Android Faithful podcast, and I realized, in talking about it, I was like, well, actually, it does make its way into my use on a more and more of a consistent basis. If I had to pinpoint when I choose to turn to it, I don't know that I could tell you right now what that is, but I do know that I do.
Right.
You know what I mean? I couldn't tell you what the exact application of it is. If I'm if I'm working on an article or something and I'm like, when was, maybe a good example of this, let me see if I can pull it up here, would be if I'm working on something, let's see here, add to stage, AI mode on a phone. Oh, okay. It's giving me AI mode on AI mode. If I was working on an article, I wanted to know, when was Google Assistant first launched? That would be the sort of thing that I would probably open up Google and do a search on. And instead, AI mode gives me the date, which probably if I did that in search, it would have given me that in an AI overview as well. May 18th, 2016, which I'm assuming is correct. It seems to be corroborated here. Google's developer conference launched alongside Google Home Smart Speaker, Allo. So this is all almost certainly pretty accurate if I was to dive into it. And it gives me a little bit of extra info. I think still my question about AI mode and all of these things is, I can get this in a million different ways. Why do I choose to get this through AI mode and not opening up a Perplexity instant or instance or just plain Google search? You know what I mean? They all
let me ask you this. I haven't used it much yet. Let me just ask you this. If I go to Google search, when I get results, so I'm going to go to Google search and I want to search for Jason Howell.
Uh-oh.
And so now among the choices on the top, I can get news about you, images about you, video, but I now get AI mode about you, right?
Yeah,
So
that button, right?
That's one way to get it, and then it's going to tell me what it knows, and I can ask more questions. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm in a page with an article, and I right-click in that page, let me go to one.
So just any page?
Yeah, any page. Let's say a news page.
Okay.
Go to
Okay.
New
Yeah,
York
like
Times.
I pulled up a Google Assistant news page on search engine land.
Right. So when I go into that story and I right-click, I get the help me read experiment and ask a question, and then I get the other choices: back, forward, print, the page choices, right? Translate to English, and so on. You know what I'm saying? If in the body of the page, double finger click
Okay.
or
Yeah.
right click.
Yeah. Oh, and I see. You're not seeing my context window pop up because it's just showing the browser.
Oh, I see.
But I'm looking at my options and I'm not seeing what you're seeing.
So I see.
Sorry that
I
we don't see it on the
see
stream.
print, cast. Maybe it's because I've
Yeah, I see printcast and search
all
with
that
Google
stuff, right.
Lens, open and reading mode.
So it must be that I did some kind of lab thing where there's an experimental help me read,
Oh, okay.
and it'll summarize it. It can simplify it. I can ask a question. That's where I want to use AI mode. Right. I want to on that page. I want it to be able to use the power of Gemini there.
Right.
On any web page, I should be
On
able
any
to
web
call up
page.
and pull it in. Right. It's fine if I can get it on search. So I make a search, and then AI mode is like a second thought. Then the only way I
Yeah.
can get to AI mode is I can go
It's
directly
through
to it,
AI mode.
but I
Now
go
I'm
to it through
looking-
search.
Now I'm looking at this page and I've got my Google Chrome browser, and up in the very, very top right corner is the little, oh, I see. You can't see it because, again, I'm sharing just the browser and it's not showing the other things. But in the top corner of my browser, I had a little Gemini thing, which I had never pressed. And when I press that, it says Gemini and Chrome, your AI assistant for the web. Yes, I'm in. And so now when I'm in it, now I actually do have Gemini appearing, which, again, you can't see. Maybe now I will get what you were talking about, the kind of extra
How do I get
context.
that?
But yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I'm logged into my personal account, which has the AI subscription, the kind of advanced AI subscription through Google, not my business account. And so I wonder if that appears for you, being that you're probably logged into your business account, right?
Yep. Am I there again? I've had a victory, and now I've had a loss again.
I know, totally. It's always one step forward, one step back.
Go to the
What's up
AI
for you, Jeff?
innovations. So go to settings.
This isn't quite how I thought the show was going to start, but it's interesting.
Help Jeff. Autofill with AI, history with AI, reimagine. Your profile is managed. So yeah, I'm screwed again.
Oh, okay.
And I've turned on everything I can turn on. From my I had two old colleagues who were on my buzzmachine.com account, and my son. They never used the email, and the price is going up, so I just killed all of them. So I am the only person. I am it. I'm the one account in my entire workspace. I am the company. I am everything.
You are everything. So true.
So I have
Jeff,
only
though.
myself to yell at.
All right, so Jeff, look at your screen because I figured out how to share it. So now I've got this
Right.
article, and I've got this little
Which I
Gemini
don't
thing
have.
right up at the top right.
Yep.
When I tap that, now that I've activated it, and you can see I have a pro Google AI account, right? Now I have Gemini integrated into the context of the page. And so Ask Gemini, it says it's sharing this particular page, and I could query against this page the way you're talking about, which doesn't have anything to do with AI mode specifically, but kind of accomplishes the same thing that you're talking about, which is when I'm in a page, how do I get more context about this page while I'm there?
Okay, pardon
And
me. Jason, do the next 20 minutes of the show alone, because I'm going to go and try to figure out my settings in Workspace and get this going.
And then share with everyone how you did it, because they're just as lost as you
I
are.
might want to
Jeff.
turn my sound off because I'm going to be cursing a lot.
I could select different Gemini models, fast, or the Pro model for slower but reasoning around that. And yeah, there you go. Okay. It's funny, I didn't have that active until just now, and this is somewhat appropriate because later on in the show we're going to talk about Perplexity's Comet browser that just launched today. So
Yeah.
lots to talk about on this front. But I should just say real quick, there is a little bit of AI mode news today. It's not huge news, but anyone who's following the smartphone world knows that Samsung had their big Unpacked event this morning, their foldable lineup and everything. Google's officially making their new phones the official launch device for Android 16, and of course Google getting in on the fun as well, announcing Circle to Search now integrates AI mode into Circle to Search. So kind of similar to what you're talking about. If you're using Circle to Search and you search on something that happens to be on your screen, you can kick into AI mode around that particular thing and start querying against it. So very similar to what you're
Which
talking
goes back
about,
to what you
but
were
on
saying
the phone.
before, is that you're finding yourself using it, but only when it's presented to you.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm in search, I know that button's there now, and I've used it enough times to know like I can go to it when I'm already there.
Right.
It's just, I think the question for me though is when I have a thing or a question that I want to answer, what makes me choose to open up Perplexity to find that answer versus what makes me choose to open up Gemini or to open up AI mode? And that's where it gets a little confusing for me, because I'm like, well, Gemini and AI mode kind of serve similar purposes. I realize that Google says that AI mode is like search on steroids. They don't say that exactly, but that's kind of the rationale is like, well, when you want to search and you want to have a little bit of that AI experience integrated into search, that's what AI mode is. But you can kind of use Gemini that way too. And so I don't know. It gets a little confusing for me.
Well, that's interesting because I think that what you're saying is that in the market, as much as they might want to try to separate it out, AI is AI to people. And I'm either if I'm using Google's AI, it should all be Google's AI. Or I'm using Perplexity's AI, it's all Perplexity's AI. And I'm not really thinking about different functions. And that's okay, but it gets them a little stuck if they want to have a specialized version of it.
Totally. And what are the things that promote someone to being like dedicated to a particular brand or model of AI or whatever? Like ChatGPT has an ongoing awareness, in quotes, of who you are as a user of ChatGPT based on all the previous queries that you put into it. And so over time, it kind of seems to learn a little bit about you so that it knows how to tailor things for you over time. And that's a certain type of lock-in, I've got a subscription to Google's AI now. I've got a subscription to ChatGPT, Perplexity, of course. Wow. So now I'm in at least 3 different places that I'm actively paying for.
So you're paying $60 a month.
Well, but like Perplexity, I paid up front for a full year.
Right.
ChatGPT, I am paying $20 a month for. Google AI, I am, but that also has a bunch of other perks. Like I have I don't get ads on YouTube, which I got really sick of seeing the ads on YouTube. So I was like, fine, I'll pay for it. And then, it just made sense. I get extra storage and stuff. So there's other reasons for me to have them. It's I think the Gemini thing is almost a byproduct of the other things that I wanted. And then it came with it, but it's kind of done its job
now
because I use it a lot more.
Yeah.
And I am, to get to your point, I am starting to really learn, although it would be hard for me to verbalize exactly why and what, but I am starting to learn what I turn to different things for different reasons. Oh, that's good. Like Gemini, for example, I find Gemini to be a really great deep research tool compared to the other ones. For whatever reason, Google has a really great product. And I know that with my subscription, deep research isn't limited to X number of queries per month, which it is on others.
Are you using the fast or the pro version when you do deep research?
I use the pro version when I do that, and it takes a while.
It does take a while. Yeah, it takes quite a while.
Yeah, but I really like what I get back. It feels super comprehensive. It's never perfect, but it feels, super comprehensive. So,
yeah,
anyways,
I'm finding it. I'm using it for that. I wanted it to go over some things. I think I mentioned this last week, where for the next book I'm working on, I gave it too broad a query and it took forever and it crapped out. But at some point then I narrowed it in. But I'm also finding it useful to explain things to me. I'm fascinated. The rabbit hole I've been going down lately is the creation of the triode vacuum tube, which was the first amplifier and all that led to. And it's a hell of a rabbit hole, but there's stuff in here that I just don't understand. I don't understand
right.
how, and then the next phase of that, of course, is the transistor. And that's really hard. I've never really grokked how that works. And I'm finding these tools are useful in teaching me things that I never understood.
And so, I mean, you're an incredibly smart person, so maybe you don't need to do this, but I find on things that are highly technical that I need to tell the AI, like, explain this to me like I'm 20, or you know what I mean? I need to like ramp it down, like simplify this. Don't explain it to me like I'm 5 years old and put it into, storybook terms, but like, don't go too far into the weeds because I still want to understand it. I'd love to pretend like I understand on a very deep technical level, and maybe I'll get there someday. But for right now, peel it back a little bit. And I find these models to be pretty good at doing that.
Yeah, I when I asked one of these technical questions, it used a word that I didn't know, and it used it like 5 times. And so then I said, "What's that?" And you can almost, if we're a human being, you go, "Oh, that's who I'm talking to." Okay, let me explain it to you in a different way now. Right?
Let me peel it back.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, we're about to change gears completely. That was fascinating. I love it. Let's talk AI defections, because apparently there's a lot happening around this Meta Superintelligence effort. Mark Zuckerberg has, already announced their superintelligence lab, and that he is full court press on using their piles of money to hire and acquire all of the leading names and people and companies, whatever they need to do to ensure that they can do their superintelligence department. And one of the big ones that made the news this week was Apple losing Roaming Pang. Sorry. I'm sure I got that wrong, almost certainly. The leading executive in Apple's foundation models team. And Meta has lured Pang with the offer of, quote, tens of millions of dollars per year, not just tens of millions of dollars per year. So we're talking NBA money, man. Like, this is crazy.
I think you said MBA. No, NBA.
NBA, yes. We're talking like major sports players, that they don't even get deals like this. He managed a team of 100 engineers at Apple working on core AI models for Apple Intelligence, Siri, priority notifications, Genmoji, all the major AI efforts at Apple. And, just kind of another blow for Apple, which is already kind of in a challenging situation when it comes to their AI strategy.
And that's what I've been thinking about buying Perplexity, rumor has it.
That's right.
I've said this the last 2 weeks in the show, so I'll say it again, is I just see a bubble being blown up here around Meta, and desperation around Meta. So in a way, Meta is winning everybody right now, but then they better have a lot to show for it, especially to the shareholders. It's like, okay, you spent hundreds of millions of dollars on just the people, plus God knows what billions of dollars on all the technology and the server farms and all that. What are we getting for it? I saw somebody, I forget who it was. Oh, I think it was Stratechery, which was a case where I wanted to use smarter AI because Ben is brilliant, but always writes things that are 10 feet long.
Oh, they're massive. Yeah.
Yeah. So I asked it to summarize, and its summaries on that experiment, summarize, it's always simplistic. Well, he writes about this, he writes about that. It's like a 3rd grade book report. It's a book about the Civil War. So, okay, then you want to know, well, what about it?
Yeah.
And so I started asking it, well, what's its conclusion? And according to AI, which may have gotten Ben wrong, because I didn't read the whole Ben column by a long shot, was that Meta may win versus Google, because Meta is trying to do kind of AI in your life. But I don't know that I see that. When you've listed the AIs that you've used, I've never heard you say, well, I went to Meta for blank, right?
No, Meta AI is one of them that I really haven't spent any time with. I mean, nothing considerable. It's certainly not one that I turn to.
No.
And yeah, I probably have access to it. I mean, I almost certainly have some sort of access to it, but no, I don't consider it.
I mean, I've gone to use Meta AI. I think I've said before, my favorite, this is the Using AI show, but that's okay.
That's fine.
I use it often as a thesaurus for old men. There's a word I can't quite remember that's about this and about that, and I'm looking for a word that does this, and I use them all. Meta AI is very good as a very expensive thesaurus. And I've used it for that, but I don't think to go to it.
No, neither do I. And I mean, here I am, meta.ai. I'm not even logged in. I could start interacting with it. Like, does Meta AI have a $200 a month plan? Like they all do now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just realizing as we're talking about it, I probably should spend some time with Meta AI just to see like what would be the thing that I would use that for exactly. How does it differentiate?
So they also have a canvas. I don't know what Imagine is.
Imagine is create an image.
Just an image. Okay. Okay. Image.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not okay.
Create an image of a dog as a king is one example. Yeah. So that's
Right.
basically what Imagine is. Google uses that nomenclature as well for Imagine This, which is a feature I think on Pixel phones that you do, and that's how you create images. So they all walk in similar places.
So anyway,
Stuff.
Zuckerberg is, as he bet the farm on Meta, right? And that kind of went nowhere. And he got punished for it for a little while, but the stock is up. People still think that there's something there. He's putting a target on his back, I think, unless he's got some grand plan.
I mean, yeah, that's true. He's certainly not making friends, I imagine, by being so. But I mean, isn't this just the way business
It's the way it is.
works? It's just
Yeah,
the way
he's
it is.
just-
I mean, sorry.
He's increasing the cost for everybody.
Yeah, I guess so. He's raising the level a little bit. I mean, Pang had only been with the Apple team since 2021, so he's it's not like he's a lifer, an Apple lifer. Prior to that, he was at Alphabet. He was principal software engineer across a number of Alphabet's LLM projects, but in 2021 defected to Apple and now to Meta, which I mean we've been following Silicon Valley and technology companies for decades at this point. This is totally how it works when you work in Silicon
All you had
Valley.
to do was buy him free lunch and a foosball table.
Yeah.
And it was fine. Now you got to get him hundreds of millions of dollars.
A year.
So the information via Gizmodo had a story that said that OpenAI is putting out so much stock-based compensation that it's
Oh, wow.
it's larger than the company's entire revenue. It's 119% of its revenue is stock-based compensation. Those are bills they're going to have to pay in essence in the future.
But they're saying we're going to be able to because we're OpenAI and
worth
just
so much, yeah.
we're so worth so much. Yeah.
I mean, for
Interesting.
comparison, Google's stock compensation was just 16% of revenue in the year before its IPO. Facebook's was 6%. So this is what
And OpenAI's is what again?
119% of the revenue.
Jeez. That's not just a little different. That's completely different.
This is again according to the information, and I'm reading it on Gizmodo.
Wow.
Its stock-based compensation for employees surged more than 45-fold last year to an astonishing $4.4 billion. Their revenue was $3.7 billion. So that's what Zuck has done.
Yeah.
Is he's increased the hell out of the cost of AI, and that just feels once again bubbly.
Yeah, it does. When you put it like that, especially, it does. And this is not the only move that's happened this week. Meta also nabbed Daniel Gross, who's been leading Safe Superintelligence. This is the AI startup that launched last year under co-founder Ilya Sutskever. Sutskever is now going to assume the CEO role of SSI. Meta had attempted to acquire SSI for their superintelligence efforts, but Sutskever declined the offer, said that it can achieve this goal without being distracted by acquisition offers like the ones coming from Meta.
But it's not doesn't speak well for the company's plans that Meta was able to hire away its head.
Yeah, well, that's true.
You know, here I can be my own company where I can have huge amounts of our own equity, and no, I think I'm going to go work for Zuck.
Yeah. Well,
If I were a VC looking at SSI, I'd be.
why? Yeah. What? Yeah,
What happened?
that's a really good point. I hadn't considered that. as lowly me sitting in the corner of a den doing podcasts, I'm like, I don't know, someone comes along and says, tens of millions of dollars per year, like I'd be pretty quick to jump on it. But I guess if you're,
I hate to say it, Jason, but I think your price is even lower than that.
it's a little just a little. I don't want to discourage it. Anyone wants to give me tens of millions of dollars a year.
A single $10 million a year, you might get them. You might.
Yeah, totally. I'm good there.
Try. Just try.
Until retirement, you got
that plus free lunch on a foosball table. I think you got them.
Although I don't really have the room for a foosball table. Anyways, but I guess people who are founders who are working at this level, they think about this stuff differently, right? Yeah. And yeah, that's just not a part of my brain that I guess I have, where I'm like, I feel so confident about this thing that I'm going to say no to the massive, overwhelming amount of money, the immediate payout versus long-term vision. But it is a gamble, and when it pays off big, and I guess you rule the world. Unfortunately.
Yeah, it depends on kind of where you are in that. It's I'm suddenly a senior moment. I ask Meta right now, but I'll ask you instead. The wonderful photo sharing application that Yahoo bought and ruined years ago.
Was it not Tumblr?
No, photo sharing. Oh, yeah. Our friends in the chat will tell me in a second. But anyway, it was bought for $40 million.
Okay.
And people were pissed because they knew that Yahoo was going to ruin it. But at some point, it's a life-changing amount of money. 40 million, not
Flickr.
Flickr. Thank you, Flickr. I knew it was an F, but
there we go. Yeah.
Usually when I say it starts with, I'm always wrong. So Flickr, yeah, and the wonderful founders of Flickr, and people were mad at them, but how could you be mad at them? $40 million is a hell of a lot of money.
I know.
And
totally.
They got divorced. It was 20 each. Okay.
I mean, that's
one of them went on to start Slack. So
doing all right.
Yeah, and if you're gross, though, you think, well, I'll have my own company with huge equity, or I'll be an employee.
Yeah,
it's just such a different way to think about it.
It is a different way to think about it, unless and also probably part of that equation is short-term loss, long-term gain from the perspective of, I'm now just an employee. But how long do I need to be an employee for before I can bounce and again do the next big thing? Yes. And it seems like every time they do that, wash, rinse, repeat, it ends up being kind of they've got far more, interest / equity / investor backing for any of their ideas because they've already proven their track record prior to it, and so it's just kind of a long-term vision game, I guess, at that point.
Yeah. And speaking of which, our friend Jan LeCun, you can look up the show and watch when we interviewed him, was on with all these hirings. People were going around about, like, where are you, Jan, and what's going on, Jan? And he made
I've
a
been
big
curious
point,
about that too. Yeah,
I am too. But he made a big point of saying, listen, he is in the high-end research. What he does pays off in 5 years or longer. That's where he is. What Zuck's hiring for now is people who are going to do product now. Right. And I think it's important to keep in mind. As I've been going down this wonderful rabbit hole about the triode vacuum tube, and how important it is, it's fascinating to see as the beginnings of broadcast happened, the link between pure science and applied science and technology. And technology is where it gets really applied, and pure science, they're just doing it for the sake of the science. And the different motivations people have in that string and how things get developed in that. And we're in a whole new string of huge development right now. And I don't think there's much kind of pure research, pure science going on. Well, maybe I'll deny myself right away. I mean, is DeepMind more like RCA or more like Bell Labs? Right? Is Jan LeCun's work more like Bell Labs or AT&T, right? And I think we need the Bell Labs because that's where the transistor came from. That's where the triode vacuum tube was turned into the transistor, solid state, and that happened through pure research, which quickly got applied. If all you're dealing with is the application layer, you're not going to have the discoveries because you're going to be too tied to the market.
Yeah.
But if you're not tied with the market, you're not going to solve problems. So it's that combination where the magic occurs. It's so fascinating.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Anyway, sorry for that little.
Nope. Love it. Also want to give a quick shout out to the Ozone Nightmare once again. Come through. Thank you for the super chat. Says, and this was tied to our previous conversation. This is one reason I'm fine sitting on the sidelines with any AI system at this point. We were talking about all the different models and kind of what they're good for and how you choose and whatever. Ozone Nightmare says, we're at such early days. I wonder what the lock-in effects could have if a company pulls something scummy. And yeah, you really A, you really don't know if that's going to happen, and B, you really wouldn't be surprised if it does. So I totally get it. I get the concept.
Well, speaking of
companies
pulling
it's
scummy
a great
things,
transition.
thank you for that wonderful segue, Ozone.
It couldn't have been timed more perfectly. Elon Musk, over the weekend, updated xAI's chatbot with new system prompts, instructing it to treat media-sourced views as inherently biased. The instructions are posted publicly, at least some of them are. They say, quote, if the query requires analysis of current events, subjective claims, or statistics, conduct a deep analysis finding diverse sources representing all parties, assume subjective viewpoints sourced from the media are biased. No need to repeat this to the user. Don't tell them any of this. But so, as you can imagine, things did not go well. Throughout the weekend, Grok made a series of pretty controversial posts that made the rounds. One thing I couldn't tell is, did these come out before or after the change? Because I saw reported that the change was at least addressed publicly on Sunday as going into effect. So I can't tell if the change is a reaction to or cause of some of these comments or
noxious things.
This output. Yeah.
The other thing, the problem is, so as this story was developing, I at first didn't put it in the rundown because all the time we see stories of people trying to trick models into saying something awful, which is and my constant argument is you can't have guardrails that will anticipate every possible effort to trick you or to do bad things.
Yeah, so, try hard enough and it'll happen. You'll be able to find it.
I don't really shrug. And when it's Musk, you think, oh well, okay. And the ADL caught Grok in really noxious statements about Hitler. Mm-hmm. And so on the one hand, I'm thinking, that's Musk, that's bad. On the other hand, I'm thinking, well, maybe what if you try to do this? Whatever they did, if you try to do the same thing with the other models, is it only fair then to talk about AI more generically than just Grok? Mm-hmm. And so in a way, I don't think you know enough to know whether it's inherent in this. Is the model trying to be noxious? Or is it it kind of seems to be noxious.
Right. And I think that's one of the big arguments here, or big kind of points about this, is Elon Musk has repeatedly, stated his desire to create a model that is, fair and balanced and represents all sides and this and that and whatever, and continues to kind of like create these instructions to force it to go into certain directions. But then what you see, we certainly hear a lot about Grok. I feel like I do anyways, about Grok being the model that does say a lot of bad things. Or maybe people are just reporting on it more because it's Musk, and because Musk does these things with the instruction set. We also don't know what anybody else is doing with their instruction set. We just happen to know it about Grok, I suppose. So,
yeah,
maybe it's an easy punching bag or an easy target, I suppose, which is not meant to excuse any of that.
No, exactly. Far be it from me to defend Musk and Grok and all that, because I want to be on solid ground when I say that he's bad. Mm-hmm. And I think that he is in this case, but I just didn't know enough. So that's why I kind of left the story out, but then it developed more and more and more. And then he took down things, and I think he even took down Grok briefly to fix it and to do with whatever. So there is some level of guardrails that prevents certain obviously horrible things from being said. And
which maybe we should be at least a little bit relieved about, that there is a level at which Musk will be like, well, maybe that's a little too far.
Just leave the Hitler alone. Yeah, no Hitler stuff. Just no.
Right.
So who knows? We don't know what happened behind the scenes.
Yeah, totally. Let's see here. And then late breaking news right before the show. Linda Yaccarino, CEO of Musk's X, the Twitter.
She's XX.
May Twitter rest in peace. It's now, it's been X for a long time. Anyways, Linda Yaccarino, CEO of X, announced her departure. No reason shared for her departure. Of course, the immediate, easy thing to jump to is, oh, well, I bet it has something to do with the news. No, I think it was probably just timing. It sounds like, according to sources, that her departure had been in the works for at least more than a week. So not a huge amount of time, but it does make you wonder, like, okay, well, what is the bridge too far for Yaccarino when she's been working for Elon Musk and everything that he's been doing? Because there have been a lot of reasons to be like, that's it, I'm out. And she did not take them.
Right. So we'll see what comes out. They each did a post on X, which is part of the deal when you leave, is that I'll say this and you say that. And so that's what we've seen so far.
Yeah.
I think that X is a fairly porous place. So I think we'll be hearing more about this soon.
I think so too. Yeah, there's undoubtedly going to be more about this in the coming weeks. We will keep you posted. Want to throw a huge thank you to our patron of the week, Stephen Kimbrough. I think I'm saying your name, Kimbrough, whatever it is, Stephen. Thank you for being a patron. Thank you for supporting this show. Patreon.com/AI Inside Show is how even you, yes, you, I'm talking to you, can support us on a direct level. We have different tiers, ads, ad-free episodes. The best tier is an executive producer tier, which is why at the end of every episode you hear me read out a whole host of amazing names. You get a t-shirt, all that kind of stuff. Go to patreon.com/AI Inside Show and support us directly. We can't thank you enough. And again, thank you, Stephen, for your ongoing support. We're going to take a quick break, come back, and talk a little bit about AI impersonations, because that definitely made the news. That's coming up in a second. All right. I feel like this story, which is of Marco Rubio, U.S. Secretary of State, being impersonated by AI in a number of different ways, is at least one example of many people's immediate go-to when it comes to fear, uncertainty, and doubt around artificial intelligence, which is that the models are going to get so good that it's going to be impossible to decipher when you're talking to a real person or an impersonator of that person. And it's going to have dramatic world damaging impact. And I'm not saying any of this to say that none of that could happen, because it certainly could happen. But I spoke about this story with Tom Merritt, Daily Tech News Show, yesterday on the DTNS show, and he brought up a good point, which is like, yes, this happened. Yes, there were targets. Foreign ministers, U.S. governor, a member of Congress were all targeted by Rubio's fake voice and fake text style, targeting them with, trying to get access to sensitive information, all this stuff that sounds horrible. But at the end of the day, it didn't work. And that's maybe that's the bigger point, is like, we're definitely not there yet, because it was still caught. It was still, it wasn't successful. And so I suppose that's a win, or, I don't know. What do you think? What's
we've had impersonators for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And as in any bad thing, if you want to, people have been able to lie since they've been able to speak. And does AI help them do that? To an extent, yes, but it's not new. Impersonation is not new. I was just looking, I can't find it. There was a time back in the day when I think somebody even got on the phone with Putin because they were a dissident, managed to fake him out and get on just with his voice. We've had impersonators of all sorts for a long time. So yeah, it's a matter of scale. It changes it a little bit, but not necessarily that much. And the question, we've never really been able to guarantee reality at all times, simply put. We need more systems to assure what we need to know. And you would hope that State Department would be good at it, but as you said, in the end they were. In the end they figured it out, and there were cables that came in and said this was what was happening. And so that's really up to security to figure out the right ways to have good communications and not use your own phone, Secretary of Defense, in chat when you're going to drop bombs on a country.
Mm-hmm. Well,
all the more reason why you've got to have secure communication.
Yeah. And I'm so clueless when it comes to all this stuff because I know Signalgate was a thing. Maybe it still is a thing, but like, how is that different from like 5 years ago? Where they were not using like consumer, like, would you consider consumer, Signal to be a consumer grade messaging platform
Yeah,
versus
that's all it
what
is.
they were probably using five years ago, which was maybe
They were
tailor
using
made sort of thing?
closed things, right, internally, right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Certainly seems to demonstrate a loosening of approach, anyways, to put it
Yep.
lightly. And when that happens, it opens the door for other things. I think that's a big concern right now. Is everything's changing. Is it changing in a way that actually makes things more or less secure? Anyways, interesting. It was caught. Nothing happened. I'm sure we'll see another example of this in the weeks, months, and years ahead. OpenAI, speaking of security, strengthening its protocols. OpenAI is really doing, I think, what most companies probably do when they get to a certain a certain level of bigness, which is they want to make sure that their trade secrets, their secrets are kept secret. So and then they've had a number of at least a few examples of why they direct reasons why they might want to do this. DeepSeek, of course, in January. The release of that, OpenAI alleges, was built using distillation techniques that OpenAI believes, copied its technology in order to distill down to their model. And so as a result of that and plenty of other, threats that they're trying to prevent, they're implementing information tenting policies. So basically limiting staff access to their sensitive algorithms, their projects, storing sensitive projects offline on isolated computers, mandatory biometric scans for access, also deny by default internet policies. So requiring approval for external network connections. I've never run a company of this size, but I imagine all of this seems reasonable considering, if you've got information that you don't want to get out. I think it all sounds kind of normal to me. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, that's what they need to do.
Yeah.
I think it speaks again to the power of DeepSeek to freak out
Yeah.
AI Valley. And there was another story I read this week that the DeepSeek's open source version is changing everything. It's everybody's in panic about it. So that I think this says more about DeepSeek than OpenAI in a sense. The other thing that fascinates me, so I always, for some reason, I like true spy stories. And I'm listening to a book right now, The Illegals, about people who were sent to various countries, including the United States, from Russia, who masqueraded as non-Russians, as natives. And there was a case a few years ago of a whole bunch that got discovered and sent away. And it was the great series, The Americans. So speaking of fakes, right? How do you fake yourself in that way, which is really interesting. But my point relevant to this, back to the point, is I was thinking about this just in terms of the corporate espionage and state espionage, and they've long been intertwined, right? China has long wanted to find out corporate secrets, and when people talk about the reason to keep China out of our phones and our routers and other things is because of the fear of state-sponsored corporate intrigue. Yep. But if you're an employee now on one of these places, you're getting probably on treaties, whether you know it or not, and you can make a lot of money. And what I don't know is what the legality of that is. The company itself can fire you. The company itself may be able to sue you for something or other. But is it illegal? I don't know this. I don't know what the case is. If you're OpenAI, to sneak some interesting stuff to DeepSeek. I don't know.
I would want to say that there's something protecting you from that, but it probably all comes down to the contract.
The contract you have, yeah.
That you have, and that
it's
you
like
sign.
If you sneak it to Meta, or you sneak it to DeepSeek, is the law any different?
Well, I mean, we kind of saw this with wasn't it Waymo? Wasn't there?
Yeah, yeah. That was
can't remember.
corporate. Yeah, that was what's his name?
Yeah, I'm blanking on his name too.
I think he got hired by X by Musk.
And he was found to have been,
Yes.
I think,
He
anyways.
took
maybe
secrets away.
Yeah,
Said
taking
the
secrets away.
But that was company to
and-
company. Is my point. So I think what I'm saying is, I think that if you're in one of these companies, Meta may come after you to hire you. Meta may come after you to learn some stuff, or DeepSeek may come after you, or Chinese agents may come after you. And it's a really interesting environment right now. On the other hand, all these guys are playing hopscotch with each other.
Yeah.
Is that the right? What do I want? Leapfrog.
Leapfrog
With each other. Where they're all catching up to each other at one step or another. And do they really have secrets that are that valuable, or is it their brains that they're that valuable? That's why Zuckerberg wants them.
That's why Zuckerberg wants them
I don't
all.
know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. It's for their brains. Zuckerberg is the zombie. He wants to eat their brains.
Suck them out of their skull.
Yes. Let's see here. Oh, okay. So, excuse me. Over the weekend, we had our interview with Rashad Tabakawala. And hopefully you all check that out. If you haven't, go into your feed. It was an extra episode that appeared on Saturday. I thought it was a really great conversation. Thank you for the recommendation, Jeff. Because you and Rashad sounds like go way back. So that's awesome. But we dove deep into the future of advertising and artificial intelligence, marketing in an AI-driven world, that sort of stuff. One topic that we discussed that I thought was really interesting was the use of generative AI for creating the materials that consumers are interacting with. And Rashad said that he was certain that we'd see this happening more frequently in the coming years. We talked a little bit about VO3 and how, how good it is, and how at some point in the near future, it'll be the sort of thing where, I can create, making it more accessible for me to go in and almost on demand create an ad campaign or an ad to run or whatever that is entirely generated from generative AI. And we have a couple of examples of that today that you put in here. I'm happy you did. That kind of touch on different aspects of this. So the first one is the UK's Channel 4 is introducing AI generated adverts on its online streaming platform. And so this is powered by Streamer AI and Tilana. And essentially it's meant to make TV advertising accessible to small and medium-sized businesses. So that accessibility piece that I just mentioned, that may have otherwise been priced out. It reduces that cost. They get AI generated ads for a lower entry point, in other words. And it can happen all very quickly too. You can create those ads super quickly. It's kind of a self-service model. My understanding is you give it like your company's website, your company's social media materials, and it can create some sort of an ad campaign for you automatically. And that seems to tie exactly into what we were talking with Rashad about.
Even more than that, when I interviewed Rashad for my first book, What Would Google Do?, which is how I got into the whole Google podcasting world, as you'll hear when you listen to the podcast, Rashad says very interesting things that make you think. And way back then, he said, let's look at the beginnings of advertising on Google, Jeff. He said, the big companies didn't know what to do with it. They stayed away from it. They thought it was ridiculous. So what did Google do? Google went and created an ad platform for people who couldn't afford to advertise. If you were making Jason's jam and you want to sell it around the country, you couldn't afford to advertise in magazines and newspapers. Now you could suddenly advertise on search. If somebody's searching for strawberry jam, Jason comes up, and it's efficient and all that. So he said what the result of that was that alone changed all the rules of advertising. That meant that Google was sharing the risk with the advertiser. The advertiser was not going through the agency in the same way. All these rules of advertising got fundamentally changed because there was a new population of advertisers, of customers. And what struck me about this story is it's parallel to that. Because what Channel 4 is able to do is to say to small and medium businesses who never could afford television, never could afford video advertising, well, thanks to AI, now you can. You couldn't afford it before because it was too expensive to buy it on the air. Well, now we have streaming. You couldn't afford it before because it was too expensive to make the creative. Well, now we have AI. So now there's going to be a whole new population of TV advertisers. Now, in a sense, we've had this to some extent, right? Every one of our markets, you have horrible car ads, ridiculous, blaring, hard to take ads from car dealers and their families, right? Who are on there. So we've had cheap, shoddy advertising for a long time in that sense at a certain level, but not below that, right? You weren't going to find a local restaurant making a commercial.
No, you're right.
Now you can, right?
Yeah, come to the diner and get yourself a BLT.
What's the distance? Your wife has a business. What distance do you think her customers come from? How many miles away would you guess?
Oh, I mean, she has some customers. She has some of her clients come from pretty far, like a couple hours away.
Wow.
For what she does. Yeah.
Does she advertise?
No, it's all word of mouth.
All word of mouth. Mm-hmm. Because probably for a business like hers to advertise it would be incredibly inefficient and expensive, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes, she would have to be able to, I mean, not that this is impossible, but she'd have to know that she could target effectively because, what she does is not applicable to just the wide swath of every single person out there, Right.
But now, obviously, there's new mechanisms of targeting.
Totally.
And she could make impressive advertising with AI.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's a really interesting angle, like use case of something like this. Again, democratizing, which is something that Rashad said a number of times throughout the interview.
Yeah.
What it does to kind of lower the bar and not necessarily replace, because again, people look at that and they're like, oh, well, then no one's going to be, no humans are going to be doing these jobs anymore. And I don't think that's necessarily it. That it allows kind of a stepping stone, an intermediary point for it, at least in this early stage. That's probably who would, benefit from something like this. And then on the upper end, the tools work in concert with the humans, which leads into the other story that this touches on. Clorox, owner of Hidden Valley Ranch, embracing generative AI as a core part of its business development, using the tools to streamline their ad creation. A lot of this is like, well, what kinds of foods could ranch dressing be used for? Which I think is hilarious. I mean, I don't know if these posters on the article, one with a French fry dipped in ranch, one with a hamburger drenched in ranch. Not sure what that is. Is that popcorn?
I think it is.
Popcorn. Oh, I see. Popcorn sprinkled with the ranch powder. That's what it is. So anyways, I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I'd try a kernel. Who knows? Okay. It could be good. Okay. But it wouldn't be my first go-to. Anyways, I'm not sure if these ideas were necessarily generated by AI, because that's not too far outside of the box. Like, I've dipped my French fries in ranch dressing before. So that's kind of like a known quantity, but I'm sure it came up with some really weird things, and maybe it came up with some really interesting things that they hadn't thought about. Anyways, they're using their AI to generate and test a variety of food ads, some less successful, some more successful, but also on a wider kind of company scale, utilizing and leaning into AI to augment their work. They have not replaced a single human worker, yet they are using these tools to, kind of as aids to their creativity, to their productivity throughout the company.
So a few interesting, I wish there were more specifics in it.
Totally. Agree.
In terms of good ideas and bad, there were a few bad ideas that they said. They used it for brainstorming. And so one was that it proposed bleachless bleach, which they said was clearly a non-starter. But actually, I think that's not a bad idea, because bleach is dangerous and bleach is damaging. Mm-hmm. And I think there's something to say, this cleans as well as bleach, but it's not bleach because it doesn't do this and this. I think the AI was not wrong there. But they are a bleach company. They're Clorox, so of course they're not going to like something that denigrates bleach.
It's like diet bleach.
Yeah. New Coke, new bleach. The other one was that if you love your cat, you should get to love your cat's poop. They said, no, that doesn't understand humanity. Then they showed an example where the AI tool, they wanted to show Hidden Valley Ranch with wings, because he put everything as something, wings and something. And the first picture they came up with were these horrible looking, pallid, off-white cooked wings. They said, well, that's no good. So then they worked with the AI and they came up with something that looks a lot better. It looks like barbecued wings, but I don't know that that's legit. Like, I would think that they would have to. I mean, we all know that food is prepared for commercials in weird ways.
Oh,
this
yeah.
is why AI thought you would use glue to keep cheese on pizza. It was just because of this, right?
Right.
But there still are some ethics around this, that the hamburger has to be a hamburger.
Right.
It can't be clay, right? And so I don't know whether this picture of the better picture of chicken wins with ranch is what it would look like if you made it. Is this legit or not? And are they using AI to do that? Do they actually cook the wings? No, this was an AI generated picture. How do they know that that's what it looks like if I'm going to do it?
I mean,
So it's a
if the
little
AI
bit
comes
troubling
up with
there.
if the AI comes up with the idea, I hope if you're Hidden Valley Ranch, you're trying the idea before you're using
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
At least put it to the test in a real sense. You know what I realized I promised I would do months ago, and I totally had the plan to do it, and then I didn't. I totally planned to do it. I think I even printed it out, and I'm not even, now that I'm thinking about it. There was a recipe that I generated on the show, and it was some sort of like fusion Mexican recipe fused with like Thai or something. It was like I can't remember, like Thai tacos or something like that. That sounded interesting, and I meant to make it, and I'm just now realizing I need to do that.
Well,
So-
let's do another one here, Jason. If you go to Epicure I'll spell it. Try it again. Kaikaku. Kaikaku.ai. Epicure.kaikaku. Why is that weird to say?
.ai. Oh
Yeah.
God, I am almost. Oh, okay, so that worked. I was like, I bet you I'm misspelling this in some way, shape, or form.
So
you are now the world's most creative chef.
So you select ingredients. If you go down a little bit, select chicken,
Oh, okay.
and then it gives you you'll see it gives you an ecology of possible ingredients,
Oh, wow.
right? So you can add the ingredients as you wish, and then you can go down and you can choose whether it should be a snack or an appetizer or a dessert. Chicken dessert? I don't think so.
Yeah.
You can also have it add ingredients and so on and so forth. Then it gives you a recipe.
Oh, okay. Now, is it matching or is it generating?
It's generating a recipe. So if you pick a few things, you can also do auto add right above the thing. And it will add
Appetizer,
ingredients.
appetizer, fine dining, sure. Petit four, casual dining, generate recipe. Okay. Epicure.kaikaku.ai is generating a recipe. I only put in a few things. I put in chicken, onion, and hot sauce.
Well, let's see what it made for you.
Hopefully those aren't the only three things that it uses. Spicy honey glazed chicken with caramelized onion.
Oh, I guess it went ahead and fixed it for you.
So wait, is this generated, this image?
That's generated image. Yeah, the images are pretty funny sometimes.
Okay. It kind of has. When I was really young, my mom had cards. They were good. Were they good housekeeping? I can't remember. She had like this whole deck of recipe cards, back in like the late 70s, early 80s.
Yep.
And all the food looked similarly glossy and could potentially be good, but really just looked gross and glistening. And this kind of has that quality. Okay.
So you can do even more. What was the other recipe? Wasn't it Thai tacos or something? I can't remember.
That was the one that I had
That you made,
generated, and I know I saved it somewhere. I don't want to.
Okay, well, Jason's just reminded us all.
I am reminding you because I truly
recipe.
wanted to try that.
Yeah.
I'm super curious. Like, I'm epicurious even. Sorry, I had to. It was on the page. Anyways. Okay, so I'm bringing that up. I'm outing myself, essentially, is what I'm doing. I need to make that happen. I've got meals to plan
Jason's
for this
an honest
weekend.
man.
I will do it. Gosh, where are we at this point?
Finally.
Oh, finally. That's right. Okay, so this is interesting. So, first of all, we were talking earlier about $200 plans. And how everyone seems to have a $200 plan for their AI model. Perplexity doesn't want to be late to that party. Well, it already is. They now have launched a $200 monthly subscription plan, Perplexity Max, which offers unlimited access to its most advanced tools, priority use of its latest models. This all sounds very familiar. And premier access to their new browser, which they just launched today. So if you are on the $200 plan, you can access their new Comet browser, because Max plan users are the only ones getting access to this right away. It has Perplexity Search as the default search engine. Apparently you can change that if you want. Comet Assistant, which is a new AI agent within the browser. So it kind of, reminds me a little bit of what you were talking about earlier. If you're on a page and you want to query against that page specifically, this browser, is kind of has that built in. But I guess so did Chrome, like I showed you. It had Gemini built into it. But this has more of like an agentic quality to it. This says, tell this person I can meet this week and that I want to schedule a calendar invite for later, blah, blah. And then it kind of goes through automatically in this little sidecar window and does that tied to a Gmail account that's open up in the browser. So there you go. $200 a month can get you this web browser.
Which I'm really curious to try, because I think people keep on saying that search is going to do in Google. And there was a study this week that said that Google is still by far the most searches, and that it's not taken over by others. But I think the browser is an interesting piece here. It's also interesting because there's an effort in antitrust to get Google to get rid of Chrome, which I think is stupid.
Yeah.
But the browser is an interesting way in. And Perplexity is such a clever company. And I'm really curious to see what insight they've had about rethinking the browser.
Yeah. I mean, browsers are also very we have our browsers that we use, and it takes a lot to get someone to move from a browser. We've been using these things for so long now. I'd have to be utterly convinced to stop using Chrome just because I'm so used to it, and everything syncs to it, and I'm used to the way that everything is. I mean, maybe this would woo me. Maybe I would use it and I would immediately see the reason to upend the browser. But I think,
or the way the browser wars worked is they all played hopscotch, leapfrog with each other on features until at the end there was nothing interesting to be done, and the browser was a browser. So it'd be interesting to see if that jumpstarts some new development and new innovation around browsers. Because in a way, Google's doing that. The fact that you can now get AI mode or Gemini mode or all that's an add-on to something that exists, whether that's search or the browser. How much does it integrally affect the design of what it is?
And does it actually give people something that they actually want? Because that's another thing that continues to come up, at least in the smartphone world especially. It's like all these new AI features all the time, and the automatic response I get is but I don't want any of that. I don't need any of that, And is a browser infused with AI agentry and AI search, is that something that the tech companies think people want, but people don't actually want? And I guess we'll find out. If the browser, if the Comet browser doesn't get much action. I wonder, as a Perplexity user, and I've said a million times, I use it a lot. I have the Perplexity app, the standalone app installed on my computer, but I never use it. And I wonder, would it be the same for a browser, or do I just use Perplexity the way I use Perplexity, and the other things, much smaller percentage of people would actually tap into that? I don't know. Anywho, that is that. Real quick, want to thank those of you leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. Big help. Please get the word out. Tell your friends if they're looking for an AI podcast that's all about AI from a let's learn about it perspective. That's what we're all about. So let them know we exist. We appreciate your help in that. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we've got another interview episode scheduled for this Saturday, and we're going to play you a clip and talk a little bit about it. That's coming up in a second. I always say it's coming up in a second, but it's really coming up in a couple of minutes. My apologies for setting the bar too high or low or whatever it is. Babak Hodjat is our guest of the podcast. We interviewed Babak a couple of weeks ago. He's currently CTO for AI at Cognizant. but he's also happens to be co-founder of a company from the late 90s, early 2000s called Dejima Inc. And they are the company who developed agent-oriented natural language technology that happened to be the foundation for Siri, for Apple's Siri, when Siri first launched. So the conversational capabilities of Siri were driven largely by Babak's hard work. He was co-founder of that company. And so he helped create essentially what Siri became. And we had the pleasure of speaking with Babak for probably like 45, 50 minutes a few weeks ago. That interview is going to hit your feed this Saturday. So definitely stay tuned for that. But we have a little clip here because we talk all about kind of agents, speaking of Comet and agents and everything. A large part of the conversation is about voice agents and kind of where we are right now, how that's evolved from the Siri model to where we are right now, and what we have to look forward to. And I have a little clip here to play, which is about Babak basically discussing how large language models may develop their own abstract ways of kind of representing knowledge, and also looking at the cultural nuances that are involved in teaching AI to understand very complex concepts, things like emotion and poetry and stuff. It was a fascinating conversation. Anyways, here's a little clip to tide you over until this weekend.
In the scenes where we don't see it, are agents
That didn't work.
languages?
There we go.
That's another awesome question, Jeff. It's been observed, especially when you set up these large language models to do chain of thought reasoning, which means think about what you want to do first, write it down, make that part of your context and go to the next step, go to the next step. It used to be that these chain of thoughts were all in English. And partly because the large language models that they started on, like GPT-4o and so forth, were natively English. When DeepSeek came out, one thing that was really fascinating was when you gave it chain of thought reasoning fine-tuned, part of the chain of thought was a mix of English and Chinese. And people start scratching their heads and thinking, wait, this is interesting. These are they have been trained to be multilingual out of the box. And it seems like they're very comfortable using multiple languages at the same time. So there's this whole line of inquiry as to whether or not, and still a question, whether or not the internal thinking, quote unquote, of these large language models is some other language, some made up way of abstracting the world and representing it and thinking about it.
Because it's just tokens in the end.
It's just tokens, exactly. And these tokens basically are a taxonomy abstraction of the world that seems to reflect how we, abstract the world. But it's not necessarily, the thinking isn't necessarily in one language, which is fascinating. It's amazing that that's happening.
That's super fascinating, because when I think about language and the kind of variability between the wide scope of let's say the dictionary and how I know to speak in English, different languages have different concepts and ways to describe the world that like we have no analog for in English, and dotted throughout them all. So when you've got an LLM that understands, again, in air quotes, we could probably put air quotes around half of what we say, but that understands all of those nuances, that actually makes the system possibly more, smarter than if, about kind of contextualizing the world than it would be if it was just locked into a single language.
Look, here's something controversial. It seems pretty clear that we abstract emotions differently depending on our language and our culture. There's no universal emotional abstraction that's happening here. And these are higher order, very socially and contextual concepts, emotions. And so to your point, Jason, if you have a system that's multilingual at that level and can, again, quote unquote, understand emotions universally across languages and cultures, how much richer is that than someone that's experienced one or two cultures and languages in their lifetime?
So I'm the idiot American who speaks 1.1 languages, really bad German. May I ask, do you speak multiple languages?
I do, yeah.
Do you interact with these models in those various languages, and
I
do you
do.
find different ways?
That's what all of us in AI have, this like little barrage of litmus tests that's very anecdotal that we run against new large language models as they come out. And mine do. Yeah, I do. I speak Persian. One of my litmus tests has been, um, uh, write me poetry in the style of Hafiz. And Hafiz is like the biggest poet in Iran, and very layered meanings and all that. And it's not passed that test yet, and I'm hoping it never will. But that is like you do kind of test the boundaries by checking to see whether it will be able to do that sort of thing.
You're hoping it never will, but do you think it will eventually?
If you like, the problem with Hafiz is that he only has several thousand poems. And so you don't have a lot of instances of that kind of nuanced meaning to train on. And it's just this one guy that came up with this poetry that some people just like, memorize because it's so beautiful. Maybe for others, you could expect it to do that sort of thing. So I don't know. Especially, look, we talk about large language models being so powerful. They have limitations. I mean, we have to acknowledge that they have to go over and over a very, very large corpus and imitate it to be able to abstract this way. And so they have limitations and requirements that aren't easily fulfilled for certain things that we expect them to do.
There you go. Babak Hodjat, it was an excellent conversation. When I had the opportunity to book him, I was like, man, it would be really interesting to talk to someone who has the perspective of creating the technology, the underlying technology of Siri, which by and large is really at the very beginning of kind of this modern, and by modern, I mean the last 15 years of AI on smartphones and how we interact with them with our voice and everything. And it just went in all these really interesting directions around agentry and like that part of the conversation. I was like, well, I never considered that. Multiple languages, a different kind of understanding of the world versus someone who's just speaking one language. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, you've seen those videos on YouTube of twins who talk to each other who seem to have their own language.
Yeah.
It's probably nonsense. And you wonder whether that was my question, was whether these things are going to do that. One more little note as we leave, by the way, that while we've been on, NVIDIA hit a new mark, $4 trillion market cap, the most valuable company in the world.
Oh, wow.
So if you think AI is going away,
interesting. NVIDIA hitting $4 trillion market cap. There you go. Got the CNBC article. Jensen Huang having a good day.
Yeah. He sold a little stock a while ago. He's made it all back.
Oh, boy. How long is it going to be before Jensen Huang creates his own party here in the U.S.?
I know.
Anyways, the world's a weird place. We're just living in it. That's the fact.
Or maybe not. Maybe we're just
for now we're living in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we're not. Maybe it's all a whatever they say. It's all simulation.
Simulation. Yep.
Jeff, thank you so much. Always learn a lot doing this show with you. JeffJarvis.com for all of Jeff's wonderful work in the print and book world, The Web We Weave, Gutenberg Parenthesis magazine. You can listen to them. You can read them. For the most part, the audiobook for Web We Weave is not out yet.
Not out yet. It should be momentarily.
Soon. And then, of course, Hot Type on the horizon. Love it. Thank you, Jeff. Always a lot of fun. AIinside.show is the page on the web where you can go and you can find everything you need to know about this podcast, including a bunch of reviews. But anyways, all the episodes are listed here, audio, video, links to it all, transcripts, everything. AIinside.show. And then, of course, patreon.com/AIinside, where you can go to support us on a deeper level. We post all of our episodes there ad-free for certain patrons. Also, just the standard, a link to the primary episode that everybody gets, just to kind of give you a little reminder if you aren't, of the ad-free tier. We do, of course, offer the chance to be an executive producer of the Patreon. I'm playing the wrong thing. Of patreon.com/AI Inside Show. That includes Dr. Do, Jeffrey Maricini, WPVM 103.7 in Asheville, North Carolina, Dante St. James, Bono Day Rick, Jason Neifert, Jason Brady, and Anthony Downs. Thank you all so very much for your support each and every week. We couldn't do it without you. I know I say that each and every week. It's because it's true. So thank you for that. And thank you for watching, everybody. It's been a lot of fun. We will see you next time on another episode of the AI Inside Podcast. Take care. Make sure to catch the episode this weekend with Babak. You don't want to miss it. So check it out. We'll see you next time. Bye.